Dzień dobry wszystkim Państwu, którzy wyczekiwali tego wielkiego finału W3 Game Arena Simracing Pro Race. Już przed nami dwa emocjonujące wyścigi, na które zapraszamy Państwa bardzo serdecznie. Wielka pula nagród, wielkie, najsłynniejsze tory, między innymi takie Formuły 1. A dzisiaj będę komentować dla Państwa
Jakub Press,
a także Sławomir Myszkowski. Zachęcamy do oglądania i zapraszamy na te dwa wyścigi. Przed nimi jeszcze będą sesje kwalifikacyjne. Podobnie jak w przypadku kwalifikacji, 10 minut będą mieli kierowcy na wykręcenie najszybszych okrążeń, a później przystąpią do 25-minutowego wyścigu. Jesteśmy po dwóch kwalifikacjach, z których wyłoniliśmy po 12 zawodników i ta 24 kierowców zakwalifikowała się do wielkiego finału, który jedziemy właśnie teraz. Jeśli chodzi o nagrody do zgarnięcia, co prawda trzeba to podzielić na pierwszą 12, ale 18 400 polskich nowych złotych, 6 000 dla zwycięzcy, więc tutaj naprawdę jest o co walczyć. Kierowcy są przygotowani do bólu. Sam widziałem, że kręcili podczas ostatnich dni okrążenia na serwerach treningowych, więc są na pewno bardzo dobrze przygotowani i zażarcie będą walczyć dzisiaj o zwycięstwo.
zdecydowanie jest o co walczyć, więc absolutnie nie powinno nas dziwić, że zawodnicy, którzy dostali się do wielkiego finału, wypróbowali wszystkie żyły, żeby urwać każdą część sekundy, aby być jeszcze szybszym i zwiększyć swoje szanse na nagrodę główną, a więc aż 6 000 polskich nowych złotych. A drogi Sławku, kogo my dzisiaj ujrzymy? Kapitalnego Daniela Libronta, który absolutnie zdominował rywalizację na Brandsked, czy Jakuba Harkota, czyli zawodnika, który pokazał się z niesamowicie dobrej strony podczas rywalizacji w drugim tygodniu na Spa-Francorchamps. Między innymi oprócz nich zobaczymy jeszcze Rafała Szołtyska, Szymona Piotrkowskiego, Dominika Plonę czy Wojciecha Bobrowicza. Będzie dzisiaj kogo podziwiać podczas rywalizacji, ale mamy nadzieję, że to nie są jedyne nazwiska, które odegrają czołowe, kluczowe role podczas dzisiejszej rywalizacji, a tak naprawdę walka, czy to o pierwsze, czy to o to ostatnie miejsce premiowane nagrodą pieniężną, a więc o 12 lokatę będzie zażarta zarówno w pierwszym, jak i drugim wyścigu, a pierwszy wyścig odbędzie się na majestatycznym Spa-Francorchamps, na niesamowicie legendarnym torze dla całego motorsportu.
Tak, później drugi wyścig na brytyjskim Brands Hatch, natomiast zatrzymujmy się przy Spa. Tam działo się naprawdę bardzo wiele i nawet Jakub Harkot, który startował wtedy z pole position, później wyścig numer 1 wygrał, natomiast w wyścigu numer 2 się nie udało, było kilka błędów, było kilka kolizji, ostatecznie rundę wygrał, a tak prezentują się numery poszczególnych kierowców. Lecimy od sesji kwalifikacji pierwszych, czyli Daniel Libront, Szymon Piotrowski, Rafał Szołtysek, Olaf Sawczuk, Wojciech Bobrowicz, Kacper Smirnow, Mateusz Tyszkiewicz, także oprócz tych kierowców Adrian Faber, Zbigniew Siara, Adrian Kobacki, Damian Borkowski oraz Jakub Kuraczyk.
W drugiej rundzie mamy Jakuba Harkota, Dominik...
Got Frizovic, Zamaro, Soprich, Adamczyk, Pacharski, then we've got Schmel, Kwasinowski, Gajor and Rataj being the 24 drivers to take us through proceedings. I'm sure, Kuba, if you were taking part in the qualifying for this, you could absolutely be on this grid with your accolades in the world of sim racing, including beating me in the championship once. Not worry about it, don't worry about it.
I thought you were going to say that I was going to win it if I was taking.
Oh yeah, no, absolutely you'd win. Yeah, of course you would.
No, yeah, something to add that is really interesting. You mentioned the qualifying rounds. They took part on the same car track combos. So one of them was with Supercar at Spa, one of them was with the SUV at Brands-Hatch. But the important thing is that 12 guys qualified from the Supercar at Spa, but 12 guys qualified from the other combo, so they didn't race the Supercar at Spa. So it's going to be really mixed because half of the grid has already raced this car at this track and half of them didn't.
Yeah, I mean, to be fair, I've got to say, I love that idea that we've got, two different cars, two different circuits, and I like the idea that some people haven't seen it, but it does also mean that every single one of our drivers has a very solid reference as to what to expect out of that car, as to what lap times they need to be aiming for, so they can prepare accordingly in practice, which is has obviously been going on for quite a while behind the scenes for a lot of our drivers to get ready for, again, to win this and to win the prize money from it as well.
Yeah, of course. Yeah, so you guys must have seen before on the graphics, the pole time in the qualifying round was a 2:16.0 by Kuba Harkot. So it'll be really interesting to see if there's any improvement on that. Of course, in the qualifying rounds, it was all about being in the top 12. It didn't really matter if you win or if you come 12, because it's all reset down to 0 points again for the final. So I'm sure someone like Kuba didn't really have to push 110%, because he had a bit of an advantage in pace. So it'll be really interesting to see. And as we speak, we move on to qualifying, so we should be seeing our first lap times on the board very soon.
Yeah, they are all on their out laps. They've just departed pit lane before they venture their way around the circuit of Spa-Francorchamps. I think in practice, we're certainly seeing something in the 60s. I'm not sure. I can't remember. I do know that that Harkot and Tuskovic were very close. At least the last time that I checked in on practice, it was going for about half an hour before this. Of course, if you're new to the world of sim racing, they can practice outside of the official practice session that is prior to qualifying, and I'm sure they would have done their fair share of preparations on the build-up to it. But it's interesting to note that Tuskovic and Harkot are very, very close. You can kind of use qualifying, the practice before qualifying, to almost like fire a shot across the bow of your competitors to show, this is what I can do. You're going to have to bring something special in qualifying.
Yeah, 100%. The mentality always plays a big part. When you think you're the best, and you kind of have this confidence going to qualifying, or like, I've got it. It's easy. But when you see someone go faster than you in practice, then obviously it's a different kind of pressure. And Tuskovic is one of those guys that didn't race this car in the qualifying rounds. So obviously, I'm sure everyone got loads of practice in before the final. Shouldn't play a big part, but nothing can replace an actual experience of competing in the car.
Yeah, exactly. Understanding what the car's going to do over the 25-minute period, how it's going to slide, how it's going to affect its tyres throughout the running into the first corner. You can see smoke coming off. I think that's a bit of almost like lockups and such coming into that first corner. We'll take a little look around the circuit of Spa-Francorchamps, that race down the hill towards Eau Rouge and Radion. It's 2 kilometres from La Source all the way up to Les Combes. Incredibly long run. Important to get that first corner done well, not just obviously in qualifying, but also in the race. But here in qualifying, if you don't nail it, you're already starting the lap off in a completely poor way, at which point you almost might as well hit the reset button and start again.
Yeah, I don't think Rouge is flat out in this car, to be honest. I did try to
fantastic.
It's really understeering Rouge, so I'm not 100% sure, but I would think it's not flat out, which is going to add a huge amount of challenge to driving this track.
Yeah, I mean, I've recently driven quite an understeering vehicle around Spa, so at least I got that. But maybe it was still Eau Rouge was still flat. That was in a GT3. So if this is understeering more than that, goodness me, it should be an interesting one, especially when you go through corners like this one. Put on the double apex left-hander. This is basically about halfway down this descent. It almost kind of looks flat at points like here, but it's not. You are still going downhill. You go through Fagnes. At this point, it goes from right, it goes back over to the left, and then we come through Stavelot, Kerfuffre, this kind of section where you go out onto this backstretch down towards Blanchimont. I would assume that if Eau Rouge Radion, if that section's got a bit of a lift, is Blanchimont flat, or is that a lift as well?
I think that's a small lift as well.
Yeah, I thought so. It's going to be that. See, that's the kind of bit. That's where it becomes tricky, because you can't just do it in autopilot. You've got to actually really think every time you're coming up to it. Maybe we'll see some side-by-side up into it. There is a little bit of a look going through that extremely fast corner at Blanchimont. Be careful not to run too far out wide. Heading down to the bus stop chicane to complete a lap time. We're 5 minutes into the qualifying session, which means we're going to start seeing lap times pop up onto the board. And for Portage Shimano, trying to get the laps started and underway, clearly bailed from the first run, which isn't ideal. Now out of sequence with everyone else.
Yeah, and speaking of Rouge not being flat out and stuff, someone like Zambarro, he's normally driving on the F1 game, so I'm sure that must be a huge challenge for him to adjust to a car that has such little grip. I mean, normally he's used to driving one-handed through Rouge with his eyes closed.
Yeah, and I'm sure we'll have an interesting time driving the SUV a bit later on, because that's very different to an F1 car. You're quite well versed with jumping between lots of different styles of car, though. Talk to us about like, how difficult that is going to be for the drivers, because there's not much time between the end of the race that will come up after this and then the qualifying session, which precedes the Brands Hatch race. It's really hard to jump between cars, right?
It is. The SUV is really nice to drive, though. It's really nicely balanced, which you wouldn't maybe expect of an SUV, but I mean it is somehow. So I'm sure that's gonna help. But yeah, I mean obviously it's a big challenge. It's not like those guys have lots of experience driving those cars. It's a first competition on those cars, so adjustability and really the ability to quickly change your focus from car to car is going to be a huge strength to it.
Certainly so. Well, we've got Matej Čičkovič here picking up a little bit of slipstream on the backstretch. 3 minutes and 20 seconds left to go in this qualifying, so not long enough time for them to get an extra lap or so onto the board. So basically you're preparing for your final run at the moment. 10 minutes around Spa is not a long time. It's obviously a lot longer around Brands Hatch, not in terms of time, it's still 10 minutes, but you get a lot more laps in courtesy of it. You know, obviously not being as long of a circuit. Brands Hatch is considerably smaller than the 7 kilometres that we've got around here. There is a look at the timing tower on the left-hand side. You can see LeBron at the moment with that 2:16.1. Harcourt, Čičkovič in behind. That is a decent lap time. Harcourt's just improved it to a 16.0. I was wondering coming into this if we needed a 15 to get pole position, but you know, that 16.0 is a very solid lap time from Peter Harcourt.
It's 300s faster than what he did in the qualifying round, so that's
impressive
consistency for you. Yeah, it seems like the drivers are maybe trying to steal a bit of a slipstream. The gaps are pretty small between every car, so I wonder if that's a bit of an advantage that they're trying to find.
Slipstream's like really important around Spa, right? Like obviously you've got this long run 2 kilometers up towards Les Combes. You've got the run around the back end of the circuit, but obviously you'll be picking up a lot of dirty air. Does the slipstream outweigh the negative of that dirty air through the middle section?
Yeah, I mean, looking at the really small gaps, I would definitely think so. It obviously really depends on not depending on the game, but on the actual car that is in the game, how much dirty air you've got and how much slipstream. But it does seem to me that in this car, slipstream is way more important than the disadvantage of having a bit of dirty air. Yeah,
certainly so. Well, we're looking at Shelterzek at the moment, who's coming through no name down the hill. X curved speakers again. It's for a corner that's apparently got no name. It's got many names, as always is the problem around Spa. 90 seconds left. Harcourt with the advantage. Čičkovič though still pounding around the circuit. Plenty of other drivers that we'd expect to be a little bit faster than where they are. Speaking of Shara being one of them, there is Jakob Harcourt, the driver that's presently on this pole position. 2:16.0. Easy improving. We'll see the sector time as he comes over that second sector split. And the answer is no, but it is still very close. I get the feeling, if you're in the rhythm, just try and tick off those lap times, solid lap times in qualifying, because it just puts you in that comfort zone in the race. If you've got 2 or 3 lap times that you're looking at on the timesheets that realistically those 2 or 3 would have got pole position, you're going into the race with so much confidence.
Yeah, if you know it wasn't one lucky lap that got you up front, like you can consistently do those lap times, confidence level is going to be really high for the race. But also something that I've noticed is that drivers are doing a lot of laps in a row and they're not really going slower like we just seen with Kuba Harcourt, so it seems like the guys are hanging on really well.
Plona improves up into 6th. LeBron's lap time was a 2:20, so dropping off the speed a little bit, but that's obviously to bring the tyres back into the window. There is a good look over the top. Radion, just pushing to the absolute limit of the race circuit. Frizovic goes into 5th place, half a second off of the pole time. Let's take a look at what the first sector is. Interestingly, this lap time has no slipstream advantage, so a 10th down in the first sector, but with the advantage potentially of having a clean lap ahead, is that going to pay dividends for LeBron? Big move up from Zamaro. You said before about the experience on the F1 games. At least it's a circuit which you're well accustomed to if you've been playing the F1 games going around Spa.
Oh yeah, definitely. And he was last before that. He had no representative lap time on the board before that, so he really needed to post a lap time on the board.
Bobrovich calls an end to the qualifying session. A couple of them also coming across the line for the last time. Gajor into the pit lane. The final lap times coming in around Spa are on board with Daniel Lebrun, and this is where we'll get that really good reference. It's not as they come through Fania. That looked a little bit too early on turn in to me, but far be it for me to judge how these drivers are going. Bartosz Zamaro bails from this lap because obviously that being 2.5 seconds off in the first sector, not going to be good enough to improve on that. Still, getting the lap time up inside the top 5, impressive. Whether it will hold there, we'll have to wait and see. Still plenty of laps to come in. But yeah, I will say, very impressive. When you've not got that lap onto the board, you've not been able to put in a bank lap, so you are in last place. To be able to still put in one that's half a second off of the pole, that's actually quite impressive. When your back's against the wall and everyone else has done the work. As Piotrowski goes into 7th.
Yeah, it's quali being 10 minutes is it's obviously enough to do a couple of laps in a row, but at a track like Spa, when the laps are over 2 minutes, you need to do an out lap. You mess up your first flying lap, you get a bit of traffic on your second maybe, and suddenly you're left with maybe just 1 lap to go in quali. So it seems like you've got plenty of time, but in reality, on a track this long, you really don't get a lot of chances.
No, definitely not. I remember this is a circuit in my days when I was doing some open wheel racing and sim racing. It's certainly one that I struggled at more than most. It was one that I put in the most amount of practice ever into a round of sim racing, and that was when you beat me. I'm still not salty. It's fine. Speaking of Shara, goes into 10th place. Lebrun did not manage to improve to get Harcourt's pole position lap time, so we'll have to remain on the 16.1 that they're on. Bartosz Zamaro will not improve. Adam Chip goes into 18th position, so few chops and changes as Schmel goes into 14th, 17.3 to the name. So we've got 12 drivers within a second, but it doesn't seem as though anyone is going to be able to challenge Harcourt's time here.
Yeah, it doesn't seem like anyone will. Szotyszek is maybe still on the lap. No, he's just beaten now. So yeah, seems like Harcourt is on pole.
Certainly. So impressive lap time. That's 16.0 from Kuba Harcourt. Adam Chick coming to an end in the session. A few more coming over the line to pull it into the pit lane. But a very impressive lap time there from Harcourt to have grabbed the pole position. And the race will obviously follow 25 minutes in that one. Do you think he's got the pace to win?
Yeah, I guess. I mean, as I said, he's the only one out of top 3 that has actually done this race. So he's got the advantage of experience, so I would fully expect him to win this race.
We'll have to wait and see. It's going to be a tricky run. Hopefully we get those results from qualifying and see exactly where people are going to be standing in the race. Again, it's a tricky run up the hill here at Spa into that first corner at La Source. It's a very tight corner. Nailing the exit is so important, but it's kind of, you've just got to drive well within yourself. The most important thing, Cooper, is to not overdo that first corner on that first lap. Not dive it in a little bit too deep whilst going on the attack.
Yeah, the only worry I would have for Kuba would be maybe the slipstream in Sector 1, because if people were happy to sit in the slipstream on the quali laps, then maybe it could even be a disadvantage to be on pole with a huge slipstream in fast. After Oruge, he could be a bit vulnerable, but it'll be interesting to see.
Yeah, I mean, I've always kind of thought that sometimes starting from pole position, you actually are more at a bit of a disadvantage. Just coming through, again, it's 2 kilometers of a run. Although the slight lift at Radion may well bring in some form of assistance to that one. Maybe it's not quite as extreme as we've seen before, but we'll really get an idea as to how much the slipstream is dished out in this car. We did see it a lot in qualifying, people looking for the slipstream, people trying to get into that slipstream and searching for all over the place. So it tells me that it is fairly powerful going into the race.
Yeah, definitely would seem so. After that, if he can maintain the lead, then I think it should be pretty straightforward with tires hanging on. But obviously, it's not only about winning. There's prize money for top 12, and with the way the point system works, if you get 40 points for a win, you really can make up a lot of ground if you win race 2. So just salvaging, a P4, a P5 in race 1 would still be enough if you can win race 2.
Yeah, exactly. It's kind of one of those things where you need to work on, just building up that consistency. We'll be going into the race in just a moment, but I do believe we'll be just to step aside for one moment before we get the first of our 25-minute races up for grabs. W3GA SimRacing Pro Race Grand Final action about to get underway. The first of the qualifying sessions has come to a close. Harcourt is the driver with pole position, but considering this was the car and track combo that he qualified to get his way into it, maybe this is the one that he's feeling the most confident at. The joys of racing in two cars at two circuits. I've always found myself to struggle a bit more at Brands Hatch, Cuba, so the idea of getting a result onto the board early just carries that confidence in. Like I say, if maybe you're not looking for a victory, sometimes just looking for a top 5, that's all you need to put onto the board. We'll get our lights onto the gantry though, as we prepare to go racing for the first race here in the W3GA SimRacing Pro Race Grand Final. We are underway with Harcourt leading us from pole position on the race down towards the first corner. It's been a decent translation on that race start as well, and unfortunately the outside looks like we're going to have a couple hung out to dry. They head their way through the first corner, charge their way down the hill, couple of bits of contact from those in the mid-pack, but nothing too major, and our race leader with a comfortable lead. Mateusz Czuszkiewicz making his way up into second place after getting past Lebron, who now seems to be a little bit under attack from Scholtesek. Does not lose out on that occasion as they race their way up the hill. There's going to be a big crash there. That's Faber, I believe. Might not be, it might be Smirnov.
Ah, yeah, easy to happen, especially if you grip limited in Rouge. You see Harcourt defending the inside, but seems like he's gonna hold the lead, so Slipstream wasn't... Oh, there's another huge crash. Oh my goodness, that's a big one on the straight.
And that is Faber involved in that. Puchirski as well, I believe. I think Rataj was also involved in some of that stuff going through Eau Rouge. Radion, dangerous start from the mid-pack. That's always the case around Spa. It's so easy to trip up over 3 or 4 cars, and you're almost always expecting going into Les Combes to be 3 wide. But at the moment, the big talk of the town is Mateusz Czuszkiewicz working his way up into second position, obviously getting past Lebron there on the race start. Zamaro working his way from 5th into 4th, so a solid one. And to be fair, Waltosh Zamaro was almost taking over 3rd position from Lebron. Had to back out of it a little bit at Eau Rouge, but to be fair, decent start. I do get the feeling that Harcourt is feeling the pressure now because Mateusz Czuszkiewicz is already there.
Yeah, I hope we're gonna see some replays, but if I had to bet, then if the drivers that were lower down the field, if you're P20, it's not a 20 race season where you can just bide your time. If you're P20, I mean, what do you have to lose, right? You're just gonna risk it all, and hopefully you can make up loads of places. And if I had to guess, it backfired on some guys. Maybe I'm wrong, maybe it was just really unlucky, but yeah, I guess we'll be that. A bit too much aggression from some of the guys.
No, I mean, like I say, I've seen it before. You're absolutely right. There isn't 30 races after this. We don't have a full championship. It is just the 2 races here today, and everything has been zeroed coming into this. Everyone's on the same point at this very moment in time. Zbigniew Shara and Piotrowski are going side by side in the battle for 8th position, as we can see here. Piotrowski going around the outside, and that is Shara behind. So that'll be Plona with a decent drive off of the final chicane as Soprich goes for a spin in the background. Seems to be quite easy to light them up. But there's a big send down the inside. Oh, and there's a spin as well from Piotrowski as it's chaos. I think that might have been Schmel with that big send going into T1.
Oh, did he get tagged or did he spin on his own?
I get the feeling he spun on his own.
Yeah, that's really weird because I'm pretty sure those cars have ABS. I might be wrong, but it's really weird.
Oh, Zbigniew Shara right over the back end of Sorchik. Oh, and I think he might have unloaded him a little bit going over the top. Sorchik now drops down the order. Zbigniew Shara into 11th position. Was really close on the rear end as they come over that crest at Radion. I think I mean, I'll refer to your judgment there, being more of a sim racing driver than I am these days. There was definite contact there. Am I wrong?
I didn't see contact, but I'm not. I know you can unsettle someone when you're really close behind someone in real life. You can just take the air of their spoiler, and it does work in other games. So I think that's what happened. Like he was just really close in the high speed corner.
Yeah, you can, particularly on this. I mean, look at the size of the diffuser on this bad boy. And if you stall that rear diffuser, I don't know if you could do it in AC, but I mean, that was a good visualization of what would absolutely happen if you stalled the diffuser. You just lose all grip instantly on the rear end. It is terrifying when it happens. Thankfully, I've not had it in real life because I don't race in real life, but I have seen it. I have had it myself in the world of sim racing, and sims that definitely do have that. It is an unsavable lack of grip. You can't do anything about it. Once it goes, it goes. And unfortunately, that definitely seems to be what happened. Zbigniew Shara was fine. I'm sure he'll feel, even if there wasn't contact, probably feel quite bad in that car at the moment. But you need to just keep focused on the race at hand and keep fighting on.
It's so fun when you can affect the car in front of you like that, though. You don't want them to spin, of course, but normally you're getting ready to get a bunch of dirty air and understeer and lose out, lose the gap to the car in front. But when the car in front actually starts struggling, that's really fun.
Unreal lap time there from Harcourt. Did you see that? 15.9. Absolutely incredible, faster than even that he did in qualifying to grab the pole position. So Harcourt is charging at the moment, pulling away now to an 8/10 lead over Matej Tuskovic. We look back to Smirnov, who's working his way back up the order. Gajor being the one that he's just passed. Edwin Farber not too far a rear, so that definitely a driver to keep an eye on in all this, running in that 20th position at the moment, as we see this little gaggle fighting 18th, 19th, 20th, 21st, all in that fight there as Farber down the inside. Gajor going out wide, losing out to Pechersky as well, as we now check in with our race leader, who is checking out from the rest of the field. Very impressive performance here from Jakob Harcourt.
I just want to know what he was doing in qualifying, because if he can go faster in the race than he did in quali, then was he sandbagging in quali?
It is weird to see that. Obviously, like there's not too much pace differential between race and quali. I did think I saw a 15 in practice. That is odd though. I don't know if conditions have changed a little bit from qualifying. Maybe it's cooled down a little bit going into the race, but you don't typically see people going that much faster in the race than in qualifying. I don't know if you've done that before.
Yeah, I mean the setups are locked, so we'll be on the exact same fuel level.
Yeah.
Like the car will be exactly the same, so it's possible to go faster, or at least just as fast for sure. You just wouldn't expect it with trying to be consistent rather than out and out fast. Oh, as we see contact from Plona, seems like they saved it though, so the fight will continue.
Yeah, Schmel was the one that went out wide, courtesy of that going into Fania. Plona straight around the outside then, and will take over that 8th position. And again, those ones are important. Points in that top 12, prize money in that top 12 as well. A bit too much curb there taken from Kasper Schmel. And now he'll be out wide. We'll lose out to Kabaki. We'll lose out to Zbigniew Shara as well. He works his way through now into the top 10. Just turns in too early going into Stavlo. Quite easy to do, obviously. When you're sat directly behind someone, you're trying to get the up and under, and these cars quite similar to a GT3. They don't really like slapping curbs at high speed. Low speed you can get away with it. High speed, nah, not really. Not around here. Those ones are far too high.
It's really fun to watch though. You can see those guys don't really have a lot of experience with this car. It's not like they've done 20 other competitions in this car and they know, I need to increase brake bias by 2 clicks for this corner and decrease ABS by a click into this corner. Like they are struggling and they are hanging on. It's really fun to watch.
Yeah, I agree. I mean, I've always said this in the world of sim racing. There's one thing that I'd love to be able to see more often. Obviously, new cars all the time, because then you get a little bit of wildness thrown into it. But that isn't really likely or possible for the majority of the world of sim racing. But in a general sense, a lack of practice. I like the idea of lowering people's practice and their kind of ability to understand a car. Then comes more from naturally what they're doing, and we're kind of seeing that a little bit in this. Yes, of course, they've had plenty of practice, fair enough. But they've only been able to race this car once, and that was on the qualifiers getting in as Piotrowski gets past Rataj in the about 14th position. But they've only raced this car once, and to be fair, as you said earlier, basically half the grid have not raced this car yet, and so everyone's learning. It's why I'm actually really impressed with what Mateusz Tušković is doing, because he didn't qualify in this car, but we know he's good in GT3s or GT3 style cars anyway.
Yeah, now I'm looking forward to go more to Branscott because, you know, at least the track is what everyone will be familiar with here, that everyone is familiar with at Spa, but Branscott didn't race that often in sim racing, from my experience, so this will be even more interesting, I think.
Yeah, no, I agree. I mean, Brands Hatch, like I say, for a lot of people, I mean, for me, it's a circuit that I'm definitely well aware of, being English and being from Kent as well, which is where the circuit is, West Kingsdown in Kent. It's a very different thing to the majority of world motorsport, which don't really see that circuit too often. Of course, it is still a fairly well-known circuit. It's not like going racing at Castle Coombe or something like that in the UK. It's still a fairly well-known circuit. But taking an SUV around there, you know, most people racing around there, a lot of them won't have done too many, so that will be very fascinating. I'm sure we're in for an intriguing prospect for that 25-minute race a bit later on in the evening. 16-0 being taken there by Harkot this time, as a personal best comes in from LeBron, trying to close back in on Mateusz Tušković, is closing down by a tenth of a second. We're on board with Frizovic in the middle of this fight. Got Zamaro still in 4th place, doing that excellent lap in qualifying late on to get inside the top 5. Now having to defend from Jolcic, who currently holds on to 5th place. As we look back at this fight, outside of the top 15, but still fairly exciting. Smirnov trying to get past, and that's a big send down the inside from Smirnov, trying to work his way into 17th spot.
Oh, such a lovely attempt. He didn't show his cards until absolutely, you know, as late as he could possibly wait, and just ducked it up to the inside last second, but it wasn't quite enough. Still lost out on the exit, but really good attempt.
Yeah, the outside run just working a little bit the source from Kosniowski at the moment through that first corner. Smirnov having to sit in 18th, and now will be joined in the fight from Faber, who will try and work his way through. Faber will be a little bit disappointed with running down the order after earlier issues. We'll try and pick off at least 1, maybe 2 here. Big send down the inside as we take a look as they run through Les Combes. Faber will go straight around the outside of Smirnov. That is classic Spa racing there. You know, if you don't go for the move, you don't manage to make it stick, you are the one that is going to be open to have a move done on you. Adrian Faber straight down the inside into Ravage. That was bold.
He frightened the other guy of the racing line, basically. That's insane to see.
I've pulled that one out on touring cutoffs, and also a lot of GTEs when I was trying to keep up with you, mate. Definitely fired a few down the inside. There's contact there as Smirnov gets into the back of Kwasniewski, going into Pouon, just brushing over the rear end. Nothing too major. Able to keep control of the car, the pair of them, but a little bit sketchy in there. And they've got to watch out for Pechersky, who's also in the mix in that fight in the background. You can see coming through the 4th car in this grouping.
Yeah, Kwasniewski is probably trying to be really safe and you know, race cleanly, really looking into his mirrors, and that's actually backfiring on him right now. He left lots of room to in turn 1, and then lots of room in Brussels as well, and lost out because of that. So I guess being too polite isn't a good thing either.
No, sometimes not. And unfortunately, speaking of various issues, look at where Zamaro is now, dropped down to 7th place. Šoltesic gets through, Frizovic and Bobrovic all making their way through. Zamaro trying to work his way straight back past at least one of those. As we look back here, Krasnowski is going to work his way into 19th position after dropping down. And I will also note that Harkot just did a 15.9. In fact, it was a 9.25, his fastest lap in the race thus far. So very impressive there from Harkot. He's now pulled out 1.2 seconds over Tušković, who he himself was 0.3 faster than LeBron on the previous lap. It doesn't look like there's going to be much changing inside that top 3 at the moment, which does look as though the first of the race victories and 40 points will go the way of Harkot. Yes, of course, we're not even halfway through this race, but we'll be there in 3, 2, 1. Now we're halfway through the race, so we'll have to wait and see if Harkot can hang on. But right now he's looking like a man possessed behind the wheel as we look back at some of the fights towards the rear of the top 10. Speaking of Shara trying to get past Kabaki.
Yeah, so Harkov doesn't seem to have a huge pace advantage over the other guys, over Tiszkiewicz and Lipion. I mean, his fastest lap is 2 tenths faster, his last lap is 2 tenths faster, but he seems to be just consistently those 2 tenths faster, which is really impressive to see.
Yeah, that's the thing. I mean, you know, speed is one thing in the world of sim racing, but consistency is far more important. Obviously, you know, we've both been on the receiving end, I'm sure, of both sides of that, of having speed but no consistency and having consistency but no speed. I know which one I would rather. Well, at least from a term of enjoyment, I'd rather be fast than consistent. But as a term of competition, if you're going to do well in competition, I'd rather be more consistent. And unfortunately, at the moment, for the rest of the field, Harcourt kind of has both of those. Is the fastest driver on the circuit and is the most consistent in that. Just is what it is.
I was gonna say, when you've got the speed and consistency, then it's really fun.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, but I'm not. I don't think I've never been there. I was never fast enough. As we'll see, this is Zbigniew Szara going to get past Kubacki with the move a little bit wide there. Kubacki going into Blanchimont. Easily done, and Zbigniew Szara will work his way up into 9th. A little bit of contact on the rear end there, and it's actually worked out poorly for Kubacki.
Yeah, that really didn't work out for him. Yeah, but I mean, it's still really fun to see that the guys are going for it. No one's hanging back in this race.
No, this is what I quite like seeing. Of course, you know this from having raced recently in things like ESLR1. But when you get these short races and stuff where basically it's just effectively win it or bin it. There is a lot of fun with those kind of races. You just push to the absolute limit, and it's sure, if it doesn't work, cool, on to the next one. When you've only got 2 races in an evening, that's kind of what's fun, not only from a driver's point of view, but for us in the commentary booth as well. It's a lot of fun just to watch these drivers push it to the absolute limit and not leave anything on the table. We've seen a bit of that in some of these fights, and I'm sure we're going to get one here between Bobovic and Zamaro, who's trying to work his way back up the order.
Yeah, I mean, you've got nothing to lose, right? As we were talking about before, as we see another close fight. It's basically, if it doesn't work out, then, oh well, so be it, right? You move on. Like, but it might work out if you go for it, if you try.
Yeah, exactly. These 2.7 seconds behind or Bukovski, so I'm not sure there's going to be a switch in the battle for 12. Obviously, you want to get inside that top 12. Points being dished out over the event, over the 2 races that we have here. Again, we've said before, think of it like a mini championship. You want to be going into Brands Hatch with at least a few points onto the board if you want to take some of that prize money. Said before, it's about 18.5 grand in Polish money, but in European money, in euros, it's just under 4 grand. So it's a solid amount of money from a night's work. Of course, it seems like it's a night's work. It's obviously a lot more than that. The qualifier to get into that, the hot lap to get into that, the practice for this one across 2 cars and 2 circuits. It's a lot of work to get to this point to be able to take victory in an event like this, but still, solid prize pool for the drivers all to be fighting for. And again, prize money going throughout the entirety of the top 12. So, outside of that, you're going to be very, very disappointed.
Yeah, which is, I guess, why we're seeing so much aggression lower down the field. It's like, whether you finish 13th or 20th, makes no difference.
Yeah, exactly. I mean, I've always kind of said that a little bit in the world of sim racing generally anyway. That there are certain positions which you battle harder over. Obviously in this, it's just every position you fight for as hard as you can because points in that top 12. But if I'm finishing on the podium, right, I'm not that bothered if it's 2nd or 3rd, if I'm perfectly honest, because I'm still on the podium. Obviously, I want to win. Then it's 2nd or 3rd, I'm not really bothered. 4th and 5th, again, they're both top 5s, not really bothered. Anywhere inside the top 10, not really bothered, as long as it's inside the top 10. You know what I mean? Like, there's positions which you fight for a little bit harder. In this, it's not like that at all. You want as many points as you can. Bobovic will try and steal a couple off of Zamaro, who's not having quite the same speed in the race as what we saw in qualifying. Bartosz Zamaro losing now to 7th position, maybe overdoing the tyres.
Yeah, that was such a nice move from Bobovic. Yeah, this section is really interesting because both ways can work. The outside can work and the inside can work because you switch from the outside to inside as you go from the right-hander to the left-hander, and really, I mean, if you're faster than the guy that's in front of you, you can get him wherever he defends.
Let's just clarify as well straight away, a move around the outside is far, far cooler than a move driving it down the inside. It's just that's when you know where you're like, have it, son. When you send it around the outside, get it stuck in. It's an exhilarating feeling. It gets you pumped. Like sometimes you set your best lap time straight after a move like that.
Yeah, you do close your eyes slightly when you're pulling off things like that, though.
Yeah. The car might on the inside might understeer into you. Yeah, that's less good, especially in a car like this, which does seem to understeer a fair amount. We'll say, is Tuskovic closing in just a touch on Harcourt? I think they've actually just equalised lap times over the last few. So maybe Harcourt's taken his foot off the throttle quite as hard as he was throughout the opening part of this stint.
Yeah, he did gain a 10 from the last lap just now, and they did pretty much the exact same lap times in the last lap. So yeah, it seems like the pace stabilized. I wonder if Kuba is maybe just managed the gap now. We've only got 3-4 laps to go. He's got a decent gap. He just needs to make no mistakes. There's really no need to overpush it now. And really, the only chance Tyszkiewicz would get is if Harcourt does make a mistake. So I wonder if he just backed it off by a tenth or two just to make sure he brings it home.
Yeah, I think by where they are in the circuit, which they're just coming up to Les Combes now, I think it will be 4 laps left to go. It'll be very close to it being 3 or 4, but I think, the gap isn't big enough for you to manage it and try and take a lap off this race, but just keep pushing as hard as you can. Is that what you would do if you were in the same position as Harcourt? You kind of think, right, there's no need to push 110% now. Let's turn it all the way down to 99 as here comes the move for Piotrowski, trying to get past Borkowski, and that's obviously important because it's 12th place in points.
He cleared him so easy, like he dived into the apex and was already in front of him. That was really late on the brakes, I guess.
It's quite odd to see, though. I mean, I kind of wonder if then, Borkowski might have been a bit early on the brakes, maybe even it kind of weirdly not fighting that move as hard. I don't know how to describe that one. It's very odd.
Yeah, that was really seemed a bit too easy even. I don't know how to say. But to come back to your previous point about backing off in the lead, I mean, it's really a difficult call because it's not like he has a 20-second lead, right, where he can take it really easy. And if you start backing off, you start losing your focus as well. So I would say just push. Just obviously don't take unnecessary risks, but just keep your pace up, and that's where you're gonna drive cleanly. If you start backing off on purpose, then things can go wrong.
Yeah, the worst thing that you could do if you dial it back too much, you kind of knock yourself a little bit out of the rhythm of the race, and then you're no longer consistent. A lot of the times in a race like this, it's if you know the tyres are going to be fine over the 25 minutes, I guess you just keep pushing, just keep doing. Like you say, no unnecessary risk. Yeah, you're not going to start going, oh, I wonder if Eau Rouge is flat in the middle of the race. No, just drive within yourself, drive within the car. But keep on that speed. The last couple of lap times, Tuskovic has taken out a 10th of a second over the lap before this, and a 10th of a second on this lap as well. Also on the previous lap time, not the one I just completed, the one before it, Tuskovic did also get into the 2-minute 15s as well with a 9.58. Not quite to the same speed as Harcourt, who actually set a 15.8 at some point, but on the previous lap with a 16.1. So maybe Harcourt's overdone his tyres, maybe it is that he's just controlling the race. Either way, that gap's not coming down enough for us to see a position switch between the pair of them. Maybe it's just enough for Tuskovic to put the pressure on Harcourt, especially going into the car that he qualified in, around the second that he qualified in at Brands Hatch in the next race.
Yeah, it's definitely Harcourt going slower, not Tuskovic going faster, but we just don't know why it's going slower. It will be interesting to see, for sure. We will have, I think 2 more laps to go after this one, so 2.5 laps to go. You never know, last lap into bus stop, could get interesting. Yeah,
you never know. Sometimes, if you're... The thing is, for Tuskovic, he knows that right now, he just needs a whiff. Just get within, for one, every little bit that he closes up, he's getting more slipstream. Yes, more dirty air, but we've seen in qualifying that a lot of drivers were going really after the slipstream, meaning that obviously clearly it's more beneficial to be in the slipstream and then losing a little bit of time in the dirty air, but gaining from the slipstream than it is to just not be in it. That's what we saw in qualifying, and so in that you'd have to say in the race the slipstream's pretty strong. Tuskovic getting it within a second at the moment. And now bringing it down a little bit. If he has the opportunity, Tuskovic will absolutely send while going into the bus stop maybe. Has just set the fastest middle sector of the race, of anyone through the race. So very impressive middle sector from Tuskovic. I'm just checking as they're going to cross the line about now. I actually don't know if this is the last lap or not. It's so close.
It will come down to like a second or two, right?
Yeah, if Tuskovic goes for a move, I think that would be enough to call it on this lap. So he'll kind of probably keep that in mind.
Yeah, so he kind of, it's it's a tough call because he wants it to go another lap. So he kind of wants Harker to go fast, but at the same time he wants to catch him. It's really weird scenario.
Really interesting. Really interesting. I've not seen it like that too many times. The world of sim racing, big lockups there. Faber going out wide, Smirnoff with the up and under as they head on to potentially the penultimate lap, potentially the final lap of this race. They won't know at this point, so they'll just keep fighting as hard as they can. First sector was more an advantage to Jakub Harkot. The previous lap time for Matej Tuskovic was the fastest lap of the race, a 2 minute 15.810. That clearly definitely taking a lot of the benefit of the slipstream, like what we saw from a few in qualifying.
Yeah, now the question is, because Tuskovic is definitely getting closer, does he start to struggle in dirty air a bit? Or maybe not even in dirty air, but because his view is blocked by the car in front, his reference points could be different now. You know, how much practice did he get following other cars before the race? All of those things are going to start to matter now, so it'll be interesting to see.
Yeah, all those small things add up. Of course, you'll a lot of people that have never raced in some racing ever might look at it and be like, "What do you mean blocked? If you not like, even hear it on Adam Chick, Ratai's firing up ahead, but it's a distraction. It's something in your vision when you're trying to focus on juggling a car around the circuit at its absolute limit. Having something in your vision that is a distraction is weird enough distracting. It is really hard to drive through. It's really hard to keep your focus and keep pushing to the absolute limit. The middle sectors between the pair of them separated by nothing on that lap.
And in those big sim racing competitions, you will make sure you practice following other cars. Even for the simple things are is your braking point blocked by the car in front in any of the corners? Like maybe your braking point is a mark on the tarmac or a line on the tarmac, and you can't see it when you're following someone. It's really important to practice that and make sure you've got everything sorted.
Is it the no? Wow, Harkot must have crossed the line with hundredths left to go. I was watching their bit on the live timing as they were coming up towards the line. That is insanely close. Harkot and Tuskovic then will go for one more, and there might well be a move for the race lead. The first victory in the W3GA Sim Racing Pro, the final, the grand final here, the first of these races. Who is going to take victory? The advantage is definitely to Jakub Harkot at the moment, but Tuskovic is closing in. You see Harkot moving there over to the right-hand side, trying to break that slipstream and doing a wonderful job of doing so, but Tuskovic is obviously just following.
It's just as well for us that it wasn't the last lap, because we would have missed the winner close to the line, pretty much, when I was talking about something that wasn't important at all. But yeah, I mean, Tuskovic is getting closer and closer, but seems like he's gonna run out of time, I guess, but you never know.
Unless there's a mistake here from Harkot going through this middle sector, I just don't see it. 9/10 of a second, it's incredibly close. Tuskovic has done an amazing job to close up to Harkot, but to close that extra little bit, you've got to fight through the dirty air. The tyres are more worn at this point than they have been throughout the race, and it just means that following in the dirty air is far harder than it would have been in the opening stages. Of course, like you say, through practice and stuff, they would have definitely been aware of that. Only 25-minute races, they would have almost certainly practiced a whole heap of full race stints. So, they're well versed for what the car's feeling like at this point. At the moment, it seems as though Harkot has the advantage. One final run out of the back stretch down towards the bus stop. It's not going to be close enough, I feel.
Yeah, he's got it. That's pretty easy now, as we see everyone pushing all the way to the wall in the middle of the pack. But yeah, Harkot will have it now easy. He'll be able to afford to take it easy into the bus stop, and he can just bring it home from there.
Yeah, arguably the favourites coming into, at least into this side of the competition. Obviously, taking into the Metapro Supercar. Going through the final corner at Spa, Jakub Harkot will take the first victory of the evening, will take 40 points, will take top honours at present in the W3GA Sim Racing Pro Race Grand Final. The first one goes to Harkot. Tuskovic close, though, going into a circuit which he can be victorious at. Lebront with a good drive into third place after starting from the front row. Zoltasik in fourth, Frizovic in fifth, rounding out the top five. Obviously, you can see Bobovic, Zamaro dropping down from a good position in qualifying. Plona, Shiara, Shmail, Kabaki and Piotrowski, who will be the drivers inside that top 12 and the points-paying finishers. So solid stuff from there. But Harkot, Yeah, I mean, that's going to be a big confidence boost for him. I wonder how he's going to feel in at Brands Hatch.
Is it a confidence boost though? That's what I'm thinking. Was he?
yeah.
Because if he, I'm sure he was expecting to win this race since he raced it before. Was he having to push 100% until the line? Because if he was, then I don't think that's a confidence builder before the race that he's got less experience in that's coming up now. That's really interesting. But if he was just backing off and just managing the gap, then of course that's a huge confidence builder.
Yeah, of course. No, you're absolutely right. This is the one where maybe he'd arguably thinking like, this is the one that I'm going to run away into the distance and no one's ever going to see me in the race. And well, Tuskovic certainly did. That said, I mean, when you're dealing with drivers like Matej Tuskovic, these are drivers that have won an awful lot in the world of sim racing, and Harcourt's very aware of that. And so I don't think I think if you were expected to pull away into the distance, you'd be underestimating your competitors. And I don't feel that that's what Harcourt was doing. Was well aware that Tuskovic is going to be there, is going to be close. That Harcourt's still going to have to fight hard for this win. It's just about getting that pole position and running off into the distance early. Setting an example. Who knows what's going on in Harcourt's mind? But the important thing is that he's taken the 40 points at the circuit where he really should have done.
Yeah, definitely. And so that's question number one. Was he having to push until the line or not? And question two, is anyone else able to join the fight? Because top three is definitely in the league of their own. Is anyone able to step it up at Brands Hatch?
It's such a wildly different car track combo to deal with when we go racing in the next one at Brands Hatch in a few moments' time. It's going to be interesting as well because they don't have the time really to fully prepare for it. When you look at it, obviously we're going into qualifying in really not very long at all. Like 5-10 minutes basically until we're into that qualifying session for it. Not long at all. So there's no time to kind of get back in the rhythm of the car. You're kind of just thrown into it and be like, right, off you go, try and win a bit of the prize money.
Yeah, and this is what I love about sim racing, and not a lot of competitions take advantage of that. There's no way you could do that in real life, right? In real life, you come to the racetrack and you race the car that you're supposed to race. In sim racing, you can race a car at Spa and then another car at Brands Hatch after 5 minutes, and this is so great to see. I wish more sim racing competitions would do stuff like that.
Yeah, I mean, I've always said that in sim racing stuff, we hear of this thing in the world of motorsport about the Triple Crown. We could do that in sim racing in a day. As we can see the results, Jakob Harcourt taking that victory, getting that extra lap in as well, just ahead of Matej Tuskovic, 8/10 of a second separating the two of them. Daniel Lebrun, Šotazik in 4th position, Frizovic in 5th. Bobovic as well taking 6th position with Samara Plona, Zbigniew Shara, Shmel, Kabaki and Piotrowski being the drivers that are scoring those points, 40 through 12, being inside that top 12. And to be fair, for some of those ones lower down, just getting a few points onto the board, maybe they're feeling more confident in the SUV racing it around Brands Hatch. So who knows when it comes to that as to what we're going to see from them, and as to see whether we're going to see any better results. I mean, who from this do you think might be able to step up before we get to Brands?
I mean, I would maybe expect Shara to step it up. He's definitely a driver that does have the potential. But apart from that, I think with the names that I was expecting to see up front, we did see them up front. So if anyone does step it up, it would be a bit of a surprise to me.
Yeah, I mean, maybe some drivers like Adrian Faber, who's in 18th position. We've seen him do some stuff in the world of sim racing. Rata had to work his way up from the back of the field, still got up into 14th. So there's a couple of this, but obviously a lot of these drivers back here may well have just worked their way through some of the drama which there was in the opening stage, which I kind of get the feeling we're going to see just as much at Brands, right?
Yeah, 100%. Just looking at results, Szymon Piotrowski did win a race at Brands Hatch in the SUV. That was from the reverse top 10, so that was race 2, but he did win a race, so he could be one of the guys that steps it up.
Who knows? We'll be heading to Brands Hatch in just a moment's time to see who's going to be coming out on top. It's been so much fun so far. Do not go anywhere because we'll be back. And when we do, we'll be back in Kent. Well, W3GA SimRacing Pro Race Grand Final action takes its next turn as we head to Brands Hatch in West Kingsdown in Kent. Something very different for our drivers to be taking to. Of course, we've done our race in the Metapro Supercar. We'll now be taking to the Metapro SUV here at Brands Hatch. Very, very different circuit than what we had at Spa. Spa 7 kilometers. Here we shave 3 of those off and go for just 3.9 kilometers of racing. 9 turns, most of them going to the right, including fantastic turns at Paddock Hill, going around the back end of the circuit at Westfield Bend, at Hawthorns, of course, Surtees, Clearways, those to end the lap. It is a very difficult circuit that does not let up for anything. You have to keep your focus around here or you'll be taking a very swift visit to the barriers. They do loom large around Brands Hatch, and they're never very far away. Not even for a car like this. Very different to what we were just racing. We were racing a rear-wheel drive, basically a GT3. We add nearly 1,000 kilos to that car as we go into the Metapro SUV. Still does the 0 to 100 in almost the same time, but it's dishing its power out to all wheels, not just the rears. It is a tricky little car to get around the circuit, and by little, I mean it's huge. As we'll take the 24 drivers around here. Already the points being dished out for them. We can see the format that we're in. Qualifying will be coming up in just a moment's time before we go into the final race, the 25-minute race here at Brands. And they say 40 points have already been dished out. It's already been taken by Harkot in that first race, Tuskovic in that second spot. Are we going to see a bit of a role reversal between the pair of those heading into this final race? It'll all come down to qualifying, which will be very tricky around here. It normally is at the best of times. Here's the prize pool that obviously we're dealing with, 18.5 grand, 6 of which go to the race winner, or rather the round winner. Second place gets 4. Third place gets 2, and then so on. The top 12 are the only ones that get the prize money in all of this, and that 18.5k prize pot, roughly equivalent to just under 4,000 euros. So plenty of prize money for them to deal with. Does mean that the round winner gets basically £1,000 and a bit from this, which I would absolutely take for an evening's racing, especially if it started out in the way that Harkot did. I'm Lewis McGlade, again joined by Jakub Brzezinski for this one. We had a lot of fun with the basically the GT3s, however you want to classify it, the Metapro Supercar at Spa. This is wildly different though.
Yeah, and something we haven't mentioned before is the tiebreaker. The tiebreaker is race 1 results. So that's a huge win for Harkot, even just considering that, because now he can afford to finish second to Tuskovic and he'll get the championship. So that's definitely, it's not huge, of course. There's so many possibilities, and only one of them is him finishing second and Tuskovic finishing first, but there's definitely nothing that's needed.
Yeah, it's kind of at that point where for Tuskovic, it's not 100% in his control as to whether he will win this evening. That's kind of like, that's the important thing to take from that. That's why it's important to get that first race underway. Well, I was going to ask you during our race at Spa as to what the tiebreaker was, but I was scared of what the answer would be. They'll do like one big hot lap competition. We have seen that before, of like a little hot lap competition as a tiebreak. It was actually quite exciting. It goes back to that first result then. So Harkot with the advantage. I kind of get the feeling, I get the feeling that we won't see them 1 and 2, but I do think Tuskovic is the favourite for this race.
Yeah, it was actually Librod that won ahead of Tyszkiewicz in the qualifying race. But having said that, the gap was really small because under 10th in qualifying for the races.
Right.
And they were with a second apart at the finish, so it could be a really close fight between those two. But obviously, we haven't seen Hardcore at Brandscatch at all, so he might simply be the fastest on both tracks. Yeah, I'm looking forward to finding out.
Yeah, I mean, it is a circuit that I've been to before, Brands Hatch, quite a few times actually. Seeing around the Indy layout, which is the much shorter layout, and going out here into the forest. It is, because it's such a short circuit, you'd always think that the qualifying times are always going to be really, really, really close. And yes, around the Indy circuit they are, when effectively you take this straight and you go straight on and then right and then bring it around on the start-finish straight. With it going around into the forest though, yes, we do expect qualifying times to be quite tight between like the top few because it is it is quite a short circuit. But getting the most out of this track's actually really tricky because it's such a technical circuit that requires so much bravery around the back end. You have to be fully committed around there, and that's where you can kind of see like the better drivers really coming to the forward, pulling a much larger advantage than what maybe we'd typically see from a race of this length.
Yeah, the thing that I always find difficult at this track, and I hope I can explain it so that you understand me, is in the sector 2 part of the track, when you go into the forest, as you said, you end up like going close to the white line but looking at the apex. You're not driving in a straight line, so you have to kind of look away from the edge of the track but continue to get closer and closer to it before you turn into the corner, and that makes it really easy to clip the grass on the entry, which is a very unique aspect of this track in my opinion. So yeah, I mean, if you do get it slightly wrong, you just drive straight into the wall or the gravel. Basically, there's no room for margin, and you have to use the entire track. The track's not very wide, so every last centimeter of the track you manage to steal is going to be a huge benefit in lap time.
Yeah, by the way, qualifying will be underway in about 2.5 minutes time at 5 minutes past. There's a look at your round results from the previous one. Of course, you can see it's Harkot with the 40 points after that victory. Matej Tyszkiewicz, Daniel Lebrun, who will go quite strong around here as well, as you were saying. But those obviously taking the podium positions from the Metapro race, the Supercar at Spa. But of course, the top 12 in this will be scoring themselves some prize money. And so if you're outside of that top 12, well, I mean, you've still scored some points to your name. Obviously, 11 through 0, really. You can still get inside that prize money paying positions, so it's kind of important to still just absolutely nail this one. I think, by the way, you're absolutely right about Brands Hatch. There's so many parts on this circuit where you are doing that, where you're not looking at where you're going. You've got Graham Hill Bend, which is turn 3. You're looking over to the left as you're moving diagonally across the race circuit. Normally causes a couple of problems with contact and stuff with the race. As you then try and fire it through that left-hander, you've got it going into Surtees as you try and get out of the penultimate corner on the race circuit, the second to last one. You pull it over to the right-hand side before trying to throw it in through the left. And again, your eyes are on the left side of the circuit, not right. There is so many places like that around this circuit. It's what make it so brutal, but so fun to nail. How many laps have you done around here, Peter? Have you done many races around here? It's not one that I've seen you take on too many times.
Yeah, I did, but that's what I was saying before. It's not like it's used very often. Like Spa, you race in pretty much every competition ever. It's like everywhere in esports in racing. But Brandscatch it's not like it's never used, but it's definitely not used as often.
This is practice, by the way, so we're not in qualifying at the moment. Don't expect Matej Tyszkiewicz to have that, but take the note of the lap times at the moment as to what they've said, or as to what they've done. Remember that they have literally just jumped out of the Metapro Supercar, though, so jumping into the Metapro SUV, it's a very different car, very different circuit, so getting up to speed could take a little bit. I'm sure that they're not on the limit. But it is a big gap between Harkot and Tyszkiewicz at the moment, and even Lebrun in the mix as well that we're looking at here as we prepare to head into the qualifying session in just a couple of moments' time. But yes, you are absolutely right. Spa gets... Well, into qualifying they go, and look at this, Kuba. This is exactly what I'd expect from it. I've seen plenty of touring car racing around here, and in that qualifying session, it does generally look like this. Everyone out on circuit at the same time, everyone trying to fight over the track position. Slipstream, less so of a factor around here, more so just get yourself a clean bit of race circuit and stay away from everyone. But obviously, you want to be the first around. You want to get the most amount of laps onto the board.
Seems to me like they're basically racing for track position in qualifying, just so that you don't have to queue at the end of the lap, and you might end up doing a lap less if you have to, be 20th in line and make yourself some space. So I think this is what's going on right now.
Yeah, exactly. Like I say, if you back off like what we're seeing here, you've got a lot of drivers in this that will potentially lose a lap in this qualifying session, and around here. You do get a few laps, of course. You'll get more laps around here than in Spa. Someone has gone off on the right-hand side of the circuit. That one will be returned to pit lane before being sent back around on the outlap. If you're losing laps from here, you're on the back foot in qualifying before qualifying's even really begun.
Yeah, exactly. And it's a mental thing as well. Like, you don't want to head into qualifying knowing you've got less laps than your competition. This is definitely going to play on your mind.
Yeah, absolutely. So again, the drivers that we're really looking for in all this: Matej, Tushkovic, Harkot. See what they can potentially pull out of the bag. And to be fair, there's plenty of others that might well find themselves involved in the mix at the front. Tushkovic was the one that topped practice coming into this, and so will feel certainly like the favourite. He just had done a couple of snaps of oversteer going into Hawthorne, so we ride on board with Dominic Plotner. This is into Westfield Bend. A corner which you can kind of blast over the curb on the inside, especially in a car like this. But if you exceed too far, then you'll breach track limits. The lap will be in the bin. If you breach too far as well, you'll generally get pushed over to the left-hand side of the circuit and off. This is on the run through Sheen Curve, up towards Sterling Bend at the penultimate corner, and that push out towards the final one down at Clearways. Drops down a little before rising uphill. They get on the brakes. All the weight will move onto the nose of the car as they fire it in through the final corner at Clearways. Back out over to the right-hand side. Understeer takes full effect through that final corner. Look at the body roll from this car as well. I'm not gonna lie, that's like a lot of fun.
It is. I promise you, it's so fun to drive. I know it's weird looking, and you don't ever see something like that raced in real life or in sim racing, but it's really fun to drive.
Yeah, no, it looks like an absolute blast. I said this when it comes to like some of the cars where they're like more oddities, in the world of sim racing or motorsport. Like even remember when the Formula E cars were like fairly new and stuff, and watching how they were sliding through corners. Like that looks like fun because it's not normally what you're used to. And to take this for example, like how it is rolling stuff, you don't see this car or a car even remotely like this in any high level competition in the world of sim racing. And so for everyone, it is a total leveler. Everyone's driving, the same car in the same setup, obviously, but everyone's kind of driving something which is such an oddity to the world of sim racing, where it's like, try and figure this out, because trust me, you've not really raced anything. You might have done a few laps in something, in this kind of vein, but never raced. Yeah,
exactly. And we're seeing our first lap times posted on the board, and just for reference, the pole time from the qualifying round was a 36.0. And Daniel Lebron has just done a 35.98, so already slightly faster, but not quite as fast as what we've seen in practice. Obviously not quite sure about conditions on the track, they might be having an effect as well, but I would definitely expect them to go at least as fast as in practice.
Yeah, that is an impressive start to this session, currently on that pole position. Provisional, obviously, for by about a tenth and a bit of a second, finding himself a little bit ahead as well of this driver here, Jakub Harkot, who will be going through the final corner. Currently in third spot is Harkot. Here's Matej Tushkovic as well, fighting his way through. There is an improvement from Harkot to put him into second position. What are we going to see from Matej Tushkovic? Up towards the line, top the practice session coming into this, goes on to provisional pole position with a 1 minute 15.926. Very impressive there from Matej Tushkovic.
And he needs Lebron to be in second, as we talked about before. He needs someone to be between him and Harkot in order to win the championship.
Yeah, exactly. Like I say, he can't. He's at the point now where after finishing second in that race in the Metapro Supercar, because he finished second, he needs a little bit outside assistance. He needs someone else to kind of step in. That could be Daniel Lebrun. I mean, who knows? Because, of course, the reason why we're saying that, by the way, if you weren't joining us between the races, the tie break for this, if they finish on exactly the same point, so if Tushkovic and Harkot finish Tushkovic first and Harkot second, they'll obviously have the same amount of points at 74 points, because they were the other way around back in Spa. It's the same amount of points being dished out for this race. The tie break is the first race result. It's the result at the Circuit of Spa-Francorchamps. So Harkot has the advantage in that. You could effectively think of it as a way of almost thinking of like as if Harkot has an extra point to his name. You know, that's kind of the deal as to where he is. Alas, I'm sure as much as he's okay with that at the moment, he's not okay with sitting third in this qualifying session.
Yeah, he'll definitely want to step it up, and especially with Bobrovich being really close as well. He was 3/10 of pole in the qualifying round, so not quite up to pace, but definitely close enough if he managed to improve slightly before the final. So there's a danger that Kuba might not even be starting third.
Yeah, exactly. Also, you know, Faber's in fifth position, obviously 3/10 off of those running ahead, but still Faber, one of those drivers that struggled a little bit in the race at Spa, courtesy of some issues. I think finished in like 15th, 16th spot, somewhere down the order, and now obviously putting in a decent effort here, could well be getting themselves into that kind of prize money. Left-hand side of your screen, that is on board with Lebrun. Right-hand side of your screen, that is on board with Matej Tushkovic, who's just coming through the final corner now. Tushkovic not improving on this run, so I think we'll probably cross the line and set a time slightly slower than his 35.9, and it is a lot slower because it's a 2:12. Backing off the pace. I do get a car like this with the amount of weight that it's got. Obviously, it's over 2,000 kilos. That is going to absolutely overheat the tyre immediately. So in qualifying, you kind of want to reset yourself fairly frequently, and that can come from just backing off a little bit. Lebrun's finding that because he's gone purple in the first sector.
Yeah, definitely, especially on a track like this where you put a lot of stress on the left-hand side tires. I guess tire management will be much more important than it was at Spa.
Yeah, definitely, especially through the race. Yeah, when you're dealing with a car that you will want to not overdrive the car too early in the race. You want to control yourself, make sure that you've got the tyres for the latter portion of the race. Obviously, 25 minutes is still plenty of time. Purple first sector coming in from Matej Tushkovic as well. So has gone even faster and faster in the second sector still. This could be, I mean, I was going to say 35.8. This could even be a 35.7 from Matej Tushkovic at the moment. A very impressive lap time as Harkot got to the line, gets into the 35s with a 35.995. That is impressive in itself. But wait for the lap times coming in. Daniel Lebrun will be the one coming across the line in just a second. We'll see if there's going to be any improvement from him. The answer to that question is no. Losing out in that final sector, Lebrun will return to the pit lane and will not have enough time to go after that pole position that Matej Tushkovic has. Tushkovic he's just coming up toward the line now. Are we going to see an improvement? He is going incredibly fast, and it is going to be a 35.723. Wow, gauntlet down.
Yeah, purple sector 1, purple sector 2. Not quite in sector 3, but still a green sector, so his personal best, and I mean, he's got a pretty comfortable gap now.
That's an unbelievable lap. What was the lap time that you said was the pole position? Was it 36.0? Was the pole position in the qualifiers? Whew,
did find a bit more pace, that's for sure.
That's a big difference. Of course, yeah, a car like this, because it is so odd, there is almost like there's more lap time out there because of how odd it is. I wonder if Harkot's going to have enough time to get an extra lap in, but there only being 17 seconds left. I don't think there is. I think he might have backed up a little bit too much if he was planning on going for an extra lap in the session. I think that time will definitely hit 0 before we see them starting another lap time.
Yeah, it seems like the previous laps were the push laps. No one's actually going faster now. I mean, some guys lower down the field are for sure. No one up front.
Yeah, Harkot into the pit lane. Kwasnowski goes into 12th. Daniel Lebrun will settle himself in for second position, just getting a few laps under his belt. Not really doing anything too major. There's no improvement on this lap time, so we'll cross the line with a 36.4. But doing a couple of back-to-back push laps at the end of qualifying when you know you've been fairly settled in your positions, not too bad of a deal. Actually, he did return to pit lane, so I'll back off that one. Those are some fairly fresh tyres on board. concerns for drivers like Harcourt, of course, like you said. Lebrun now ahead. Bobovitz involved in the mix as well, as Sorchik goes into 12th place. Ratai also improves into 17th. As there's a look at Schotterek, who's in that top 5, having improved fairly late on in the session to get into that 5th place, 4/10 off of the pole, and very close to Harcourt's time as well.
Yeah, that's an important improvement for him. And now, what do you do when if you're Harcourt? I mean, doesn't seem like anyone's gonna be able to challenge Tyszkiewicz, as Schotterek goes into P4, so even better.
Very impressive.
Yeah, within a 10th of Harcourt. But coming back to my point, I think Kuba has to go for it and try to get Lebrun of all lap 1 pretty much, just to stay in touch with Tyszkiewicz. Because if not, then I don't think Lebrun can get Tyszkiewicz looking at qualifying.
Absolutely agree. You've got to go on the attack straight away. Especially around here. Brands is a really tricky circuit to race at. A car like this will certainly help because it's crazy. But normally Brands, you don't see too many moves around here. It's not an easy circuit to get a pass done at unless you're getting a mistake from someone else. So you kind of got to do it on the race start. And if there is one thing which is fairly well known about Brands Hatch, is that every single grid position is completely different to the other because of how it banks down onto the right-hand side. It's uphill for the first few grid positions. It's downhill for about 6th or 8th on back. It's a crazy starting grid.
It is, so that will be interesting to see. I'm not sure if our position is on the right or on the left here.
I believe it's right, but I don't remember.
Should be, right? Because that should be a big advantage. If it is, then Harcourt will be on the right as well. So that could give him a decent chance at getting Lebrun.
Yeah, it's like I say, impressive there, but very, very tight in qualifying for everyone, basically backwards from Tyszkiewicz. To have taken that advantage in qualifying, how do you think the mentality is for the rest of the grid looking at that lap time that Tyszkiewicz has set? Because having someone beat you by a couple of hundredths is frustrating. Having someone beat you by a quarter of a second, that's different.
Yeah, especially in a new car. It's like he's got it figured out. Like, you missed something. Not in the setup, but like in the way you drive the car, in learning the car. You don't quite have it figured out. Like he did a better job. Unless someone just didn't put a lap together and there's someone that knows they could have gone much faster. Then, I mean, apart from that, it's a huge advantage for Tyszkiewicz, even like mentally.
Yeah, you can see Tyszkiewicz there on the pole position by quarter of a second. Unreal lap time there to have taken that level. But of course, there are drivers back here that want to work their way up the order, get themselves further into the points paying position. Obviously, everyone getting points from this, but obviously they want to work their way into it to get that top 12 in the standings, to get themselves some prize money. A few drivers that will be a little bit disappointed. Bartosz Zamaro, 15th, obviously qualified inside the top 5 back in Spa. Outside of the top 10 here, very, very disappointed with all of that. But qualifying is one thing and the race is another. 25 minutes will be put onto the clock. We'll be back just after this. So we're around half an hour from crowning our champion in the W3GA Simracing Pro Race Grand Final. It's going to be a tough one. We go racing at West Kingsdown. We finished our racing in the Ardennes at Spa. And now we ready ourselves for the Metapro SUV race, our last one. It's going to be hugely exciting, I have no doubt. I'm Lewis McGlade, Keith Brzezinski joining me in the commentary box. But Yeah, I don't know which way this one's going to go. At the moment, it's looking like a big advantage towards Tushkovic. But first lap around here, that first run into Druids into turn 2, you can get a big send on if you're brave. And so Tushkovic will surely have to be aware of that.
Yeah, and what do you do if you're Libron? We haven't talked about that.
Exactly.
I mean, doesn't make a difference to him if he finishes second or third. He'll end up third in the standings. So he kinda can afford to go for it.
Yeah, I mean, he's at the point where it's just, I don't want to say win it or bin it, because you definitely don't want to bin it. You still want to be up there in the standings, of course. But in a sense, as long as it's nothing too crazy, nothing too over the line, you've really got nothing to lose, and you need to go for the race victory. The lights come on then here at Brands Hatch, and we'll set ourselves underway. Tushkovic starting this one from pole position and leading us away from it. Decent starts from all those in the top order, including that one from LeBron, who gets himself second position on the race down the hill, defending from all those behind. Harkot in the charge in that third position behind, but it is a great start from Tushkovic. Some tight fights behind all of that, and we're not seeing any of the major switches. I don't think Kuarchik are going to switch around, so I think it is just going to be the big run from Tushkovic at the front.
Definitely, and you can see Libron was thinking only about defending from Harkot. He cut him off right before turn 1, defended the inside, so it seems like his mind is focused more on Harkot than it is on Tushkovic.
Ooh, a couple of big moments there from some going into Surtees on the first lap. This is arguably, in my opinion, it's the hardest corner of this race circuit, which doesn't seem like it is, but just always get a ton of understeer going through there. But really solid start there from Mateusz Tushkovic to be leading from Daniel Lebron. Exactly what he needs to do on that race start. Now needs to translate that one through the races, looking a bit further down the order to those outside of the top 12, all fighting over their respective positions. Shmel involved in this, Ratai working his way up the order just a touch. I think he's finding himself inside the top 15 now, is Rattay, after a sluggish qualifying session. And of course Zamaro involved in that mix as well. On board with Adrian Faber at the moment, 6th position from him. One of the drivers we were looking at who had a disappointing run at the circuit of Spa-Francorchamps, same as Zbigniew Shara, who's finding himself in 7th position. Those two in 6th and 7th, we expect to have a decent race around here, to the point where they will move themselves into the prize money. I think that's exactly what they're on for at the moment.
Yeah, definitely a lot more clean than we've seen at Spa. Obviously, we saw a bit of a moment on lap 1, but nothing like what we've seen at Spa.
Which is weird, isn't it? I kind of wondered about this when it comes to a lot of sim racing races, because we see this a bit when people go racing around a circuit in a car where they're not expecting carnage. There's carnage, but then when people are expecting carnage, which you would do in this car around here, people kind of drive a little bit within themselves, expecting the crash, and then the crash never really happens. It's kind of one of those weird things in sim racing that we don't, to be fair, we see quite a lot.
Yeah, it do be like that, to be honest. I mean, I guess also at Spa, if you overdo it slightly, you drive across some runoffs, or you maybe bump across a bit of gravel and you rejoin the race. Here, if you overdo it slightly, I mean, the walls are really close.
3 retirements to the list, Kabaki being one of those, Koshniowski also being one of them, as well as Pechersky. All 3 of those retiring from this race. No points from them, which means they definitely ain't scoring any prize money, unfortunately, for the day, which I think we might see a few more retirements from this. Obviously, in the previous race at Spa, everyone's going to keep going, chin up, eyes focused, all that kind of lark, whereas in this, if you know your day's done, you might as well be like, nope, do you know what? I'm out of here. I am going to go and watch the Liverpool match, because why not? But for those inside the top 5, they don't care about what's going on in the rest of the world of sport, the world of motorsport. They're keeping the rides focused on the race at hand. LeBron in 2nd place has nothing really to lose from this. Needs to win this one if he's going to take top prize.
Yeah, Harkot seems to be wasting no time. Purple sector 1, 2.5 times faster in sector 2. Then lost out slightly in sector 3 because he was really close behind LeBron, but he seems to be pushing really hard from the beginning.
Yeah, which my concerns with this, again, we saw a little bit of tyre wear coming into effect in the previous race at Spa. These cars will wear their tyres out far more, though. This car will become much more slidey as the race goes on. And look at how Mateusz Tushkovic is kind of almost driving the rear end first into the corner, sliding it in. I mean, this car's all-wheel drive. Power goes to all four of the wheels around the car, and so you kind of see a lot of people driving it like a rallycross car, effectively. Sideways in, pushing off. If the slipstream was a big thing in the car, though, I think Tushkovic would be making an unwise decision pulling away at the moment, because I think for him, as we've said before, he needs LeBron to finish second. If Harcourt gets through, then, well, Harcourt wins.
Yeah, but then looking at it the other way, if you pull away and you give LeBron, because I guess slipstream is not a big thing here.
I doubt it, yeah.
Yeah, so I guess if Tushkovic pulls away, he gives LeBron a clear track, and then like makes it just easier to drive for him, and then easier to defend as well. That would be my thinking. And then you just want to pull away to have an easy life up front and win the race easily. I guess that's really his priority.
Yeah, I didn't win too many races in the world of sim racing though, so you know, it's fine. I think you won a fair few in that championship when we went toe to toe together. I think hold on, it was. See if I can remember. I think it's 5 races you won in that.
Yeah, you're running out of fuel in one of them. Was a big
Thank you. Yes, Sebring. yeah, that was where you made me retire from driving in sim racing. It's your fault. But no, in this one, like you say, yes, if you want to check out in the distance, obviously, you go for it. You fire on all cylinders as fast as you can. But at the moment, it's kind of dropped back a little bit. Tushkovic at this point in the previous lap had nearly 9/10 of a margin. This time he's got around half a second. I think we're going to see this a lot through the race. That the gap's going to ebb and flow a lot.
Yeah, he made a big mistake into the hairpins into turn 2 in sector 1. Missed the apex completely, so that's why LeBron closed up. But yeah, I mean, this is really interesting to see because, yeah, he did make a mistake, but he's not pulling away. So like LeBron maybe is getting more comfortable now and he's finding more pace. This will be, yeah, I mean, really interesting to see because all of a sudden Harcourt is nowhere near attacking LeBron.
I think this is how this car is. There is a lot of ebb and flow with it. It's not like say the Metapro Supercar. In a sense, it's fairly. Oh my goodness me, that was a very big look there as we ride on board with Karacic. Trying to get down the inside of Bukovski into the penultimate corner of the racetrack. You can see some incredible battling up ahead. Whilst it's all calm at the front, it is not calm back here. That is Ratai being sent down the order after an opportunistic lunge from Soprich into the final. That was massive, and it's still not done. Here's for the race lead. Mateusz Tushkovic now feeling the pressure from LeBron. It is all heating up here in West Kingsdown.
Oh, how is Black Lewis? We're witnessing a drifting competition at the back, and now all of a sudden we see a fight for the lead. And I mean, LeBron is flying all of a sudden.
Crazy stuff. I am liking this. I was going to say about the ebb and flow and how this car really works. It is up and down the order crazily, and it's exactly what we're seeing right now. Down the hill they go onto the Grand Prix loop. Mateusz Tushkovic with 1/4 of a second of an advantage. Heading their way through. Harcourt 1 second off the rear end. So at the moment, for LeBron, what would happen if LeBron passes? Because LeBron wouldn't win. Right? Harcourt would win, exactly. But LeBron
and Harcourt would be tied on points, but then Harcourt has the tiebreaker. So really, it's a fight for P2 in the standings between Tushkovic and LeBron. But then, if Tushkovic can defend, then he's gonna win the championship. So, I mean, this is 3 people in the fight, but LeBron really has no way of winning the championship, even if he wins the race.
There's so many things to juggle about. And to be fair, I am absolutely sure that no one. I mean, they'll have a rough idea, but I'm sure that it's just focused on where they are in the race. I mean, I don't know how you kind of find that, but I always used to find that if I'm thinking about like what happens if I finish here and this and that and the other and then this and the champion, just focus on what you're doing. Just try and win the race. That's all you can do.
Yeah, I always end up overthinking those things, but really, everyone has something to gain. Like LeBron might not be winning the championship if he gets Tushkovic, but he'll move up ahead of him in the standings and he'll finish second in the standings. So everyone has an incentive to go for positions, which is the most important thing. Yeah,
and like I say, there is a decent prize money jump between second and third. So obviously the entire point of finishing in a competition like this, you want to finish as high as you can in the points. Yes, maybe the win is a little bit out of it. And to be fair, it was just with finishing third back in Spa. It was always a little bit. But to be fair, I will say Harcourt does not seem to have the pace right now, and I wouldn't really count out Bobovic to potentially maybe start challenging Harcourt late on, and maybe that opens the door to a whole different can of worms, and maybe that's how LeBron could take a victory in the event? You don't know. And there is still 15 minutes and 40 seconds left in this one. There's still so much time up for grabs for these drivers to work their way through. So we'll have to wait and see. If I'm LeBron, I mean, you just got to go for it. You just got to take that victory. And at the moment, certainly seems as though he's the fastest driver on the race circuit. Clearly looked after his tyres in the opening phase.
Yeah, and what I'm saying is that drivers are not at Spa. They were matching their personal best every lap. Here they're not. They are slowly falling off. It will be interesting to see if it continues. And tire management will become a big thing because that will create a whole new dynamic in the second part of the race.
Oh, a bit of a contact there as LeBron gets into the rear end of Mateusz Tuszkiewicz. It was nothing major. It's exactly what these cars are basically built for in their style of racing. There will be a little bit of rubbing. Treat it almost a little bit like a touring car. Not quite rubbing as racing. Motorsport is still a non-contact sport, of course, but you know, there's always going to be a little bit of brush in between them, elbows out and all that. Daniel LeBron still trying to work his way through Mateusz Tuszkiewicz. Around here, like we said, it's a hard circuit to race. It's a hard circuit to pass at. You've got an overtaking opportunity into Druids, into that second corner. You've got an overtaking opportunity here into Hawthorne, so they go up the Hawthorne's Rise into Hawthorne's Bend. But at the moment, LeBron not feeling the requirement to try that one on, which is good because it is exceptionally risky.
Yeah, I mean, LeBron's biggest cheerleader is Harcourt now, ironically, so it's a really interesting dynamic, and LeBron seems to be by far the fastest driver on the track. I mean, he's really stuck behind Tuszkiewicz. I wonder if Mateusz is just, you know, trying carefully, making sure he makes no mistakes after making lap 1 on lap 2 or 3. I'm sure he wouldn't be letting LeBron get this close to him.
No, which is odd, but maybe he's also driving to a number, you know, keeping the tyres well in control at the moment. That's maybe reading too far into it, but it could be part of it. Harcourt sets a 36.1, so now starts to bring himself back involved in the mix. Obviously, as things stand at the moment, the W3GA Sim Racing Pro Race would go the way of Mateusz Tuszkiewicz, courtesy of Harcourt's position. If Harcourt gets through on LeBron, Harcourt wins. If LeBron gets through on Tuszkiewicz, Harcourt wins. So at the moment, Harcourt's got the best percentage of odds between the top three, but you never really know. Maybe Tuszkiewicz is underdriving it at the moment and will disappear off into the distance with 10 minutes left to go. But I'm not going to lie, I don't think that is the case. You surely you wouldn't let a car get this close.
Yeah, definitely. He seems to have a bit of a gap now, so maybe he found his rhythm again. I mean, the fastest guy on the track was Harcourt the last lap, and by a lot, by half a second over LeBron and 3/10 over Tuszkiewicz, so he's slowly putting himself back into the fight.
It was a very slow lap from LeBron on the last one. We're expecting them to be running really at the moment in the sort of the lower 36s. LeBron's at a 36.6. Meanwhile, Harcourt's at that 36.1, which is exactly where we'd really expect the lap times to be around here. So that is interesting. Although, look at the gap. The gap's gone now out to 1.1 seconds. It seems as though you can't do 2 consecutive good laps around here. You do 1 good lap, and then the tyres overheat, and then you're kind of struggling with that for a lap or 2, and then you find that speed again. Here we go up towards Paddock Hill Bend once again. We've crossed over halfway through the race. An unbelievable lap then from Daniel LeBron, who set a 1 minute 35.8, has really found that speed once more as Mateusz Tuszkiewicz is trying to get himself back into the rhythm. A fastest final sector from LeBron over the final lap, pulled out an incredible margin over Harcourt rather. It's tight for the race lead. Mistake here into Graham Hill Bend from Tuszkiewicz.
Yeah, so tires are not an issue. I think the issue is just drivers struggling to be consistent. You were describing Tuszkiewicz's driving style before, like he's packing it into the corner and just driving it off with all-wheel drive, and I think this is just really difficult to drive consistently.
Yeah, I mean, like I say, if you've got a fair amount of experience in, say, things like rallycross, then it does make those kind of those moments a little easier. But you know, to be able to deal with that throughout a race in something like this, obviously, you know, I say about all the rallycross stuff, but this is on tarmac. Rallycross is normally on dirt and stuff. So even rallycross experience gives you a little bit to deal with in this, but nothing too major. I have always said, if you want to improve in the world of sim racing, the best way to do it is to challenge yourself in different vehicles, right? Don't just keep driving GT3s. Like, I'm sure everyone loves them, but they are a bit dull, and they only teach you how to drive a car in a certain way. Challenge yourself with something like a front-wheel drive touring car. Challenge yourself by, I don't know, racing, an open wheeler at high speed. Challenge yourself by racing something like this, so unorthodox, so against the type, something so random and so crazy. That's where you will find some, because it will teach you some little tricks which you might be able to apply in something else in the weirdest ways possible, and maybe you'll find an extra little bit of time in your GT3 racing.
Yeah, definitely. I mean, yeah, you drive GT3 cars and you learn how to mash the brake and mash the throttle, right? Not
Yeah,
much else.
exactly. I mean, I always used to do quite a bit of rallycross driving, and it's actually what taught me how to drive that pesky LMP1 that we were racing in to where I was. Here comes a look down the inside from LeBron, the half look, the big send, and that'll be Tushkevich out of the way. LeBron has sent it in. It's big for Tushkevich though, because that will give LeBron second in the standings. Tushkevich could be dropping down out of the lead at the moment. Let's see what happens. The drag race up the hill. It was a bold send in there from LeBron. There's still 9 minutes and 40 seconds left to go on the clock. There's still plenty of time. The up and under working for LeBron, not on this occasion. Tushkevich manages to find his way back through. That was a little bit aggressive there from LeBron.
Yeah, I think that wasn't clean. I think he just let him go because he realized he couldn't take the position like that. Yeah, a bit too aggressive, but I mean, at least he went for it.
No, I agree. But I will say that is so easy to do, because if you watch the line that Tushkevich is taking, he's going for kind of like a later apex into quite a lot of corners. It's leaving that door open, and your natural line in the corner, obviously, from what LeBron's doing, he's turning in maybe a little bit too early, or rather following the racing line for what he's wanted to do, but that's turning in too early comparatively to what Mateusz Tushkevich is doing, and that's how they met in the middle there. That's the issue of Tushkevich's line in a couple of these corners. Seen it in Graham Hill Bend, goes out a little bit wide, which is the third corner on the circuit, goes out a little bit wide and then comes back in. I wonder if we'll see maybe a slight change in line from Tushkevich, maybe taking more of a defensive one, having seen that move from LeBron.
Yeah, definitely. And I'm trying to look for other fights on the track, in the standings, basically. And the one I could find is Plona versus Zamaro, but if Plona will be a point behind, and if he gains a position into P10, he'd be equal on points, but Zamaro will have the tiebreaker, so yeah. Plona would have to gain 2 positions, which I guess would be a bit of a stretch, but this is the closest fight that I think I could find. Thankfully, we've got a really close fight for the championship, so that's keeping us occupied.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, there are a couple of bits further down, but it's more about, just getting as many points as you can. Obviously, you've got Zbigniew Shara trying to get past Faber as well in the battle for 6th position on the road. It's not the same position they'll be fighting for in the point standings, of course, but still, getting those extra few positions. Zbigniew Shara was inside the top 10 back in Spa. Faber was outside of it. So, trying to get a couple of decent results to at least gain them an extra little bit of prize money from the evening's racing. This is a bit further down. Rataj trying to close in on Karachik. As well as Borkovsky off the rear of that, who are now on board with Damian Borkovsky going through towards that final sector on the rise of the hill. It is not just the battle for the race lead where there's some incredible fighting. We've got plenty up and down the order, and I'm not going to lie, I want to give this car a go now. I'm quite liking this. Yeah,
I told you it's
good.
Really, really good to drive, yeah. And it provides some really good racing.
It is, and also to hammer home that point that you were kind of saying a little bit earlier about tyres really aren't a factor. A lot of people have just set their fastest laps of the race. Not our race leaders though, because of course the fastest lap for Tushkevich. Actually, no, Tushkevich did set his personal best lap. It's at 36.051. It's not the fastest lap of the race though, because that is the 35.8, which was set by LeBron, who has, by the way, just gone fastest in the first sector of anyone through this race. As once again, Tushkevich, who we're on board with here, you could see he went out wide going through Surtees. LeBron certainly followed him on the exit of Surtees and went out even wider as they run up towards Hawthorns.
Yeah, Daniel's really pushing. I mean, you can see he's getting it all and then some. Still isn't quite enough to get Mateusz. He did a purple sector 1 on this lap, that's why he was really close, but he still needs to find a bit more.
It's not just about pace, though. That's the thing. It's not just about finding the speed around the circuit. It's about finding the opportunity around the circuit. And I will say, Tushkevich is giving the opportunities, plenty. around here. There is the opportunity here, there, and everywhere. It's just not the right opportunity for LeBron to get through. We saw the attempt going into Surtees, obviously a few laps ago. Hasn't had quite the same opportunity opened up to him, but we come round the final corner and out onto the start-finish straight. 0.2 of a second separating the pair of them as they head their way up towards the line. 5 minutes and 40 seconds left to go in the race. Still plenty of laps. I think it'll be roughly 4 left to go from this point. So plenty of time to find that opportunity. It's just about where you're feeling brave. You've got to be good on the brakes. And it's, I must say, this car looks wild on the brakes. I think Tushkovic is certainly one that's been struggling with it.
Yeah, and the field is really close as well. At Spa we saw way bigger gaps, and now everyone is like a second behind the car in front. So you make a mistake or you end up in a big fight, and you might end up losing way more than one place.
Which I would have said that surely would have been the other way around coming into this event. And I know, because I was definitely thinking about this, being like, this is going to be the race where everyone's going to be separated a lot more. It's a hard track in a really hard car to drive. Not that the Metapro Supercar is particularly easy to drive, but Spa's one that they're all well versed at. Everyone's kind of maximised the lap around there frequently. I thought that was going to be the one that's going to be really, really, really close, and then this was going to be the one that's going to separate. Not the case. Very much the other way around from expectation, and at the moment the expectation was coming into it that Tushkovic would at least contend for the race victory. Certainly led the most laps of this race, being all of them. But LeBron has only had one major whiff. Has a victory around here in the qualifiers coming into this, like you said, but not quite been able to work his way through. The two of them looking even closer than they were though in that qualifier.
And how painful is it for Harcourt? He's just sat there watching it, and he cannot do anything. LeBron is fast enough to stay comfortably in front of him, but not fast enough to overtake Tyszkiewicz right now. Although Tyszkiewicz is defending really ever so slightly here, so that might give LeBron a chance.
Going to get the up and under on the run up towards Druids. Should be a fairly easy defence to be made from Tushkovic. Takes that. You'll see this a lot. There's it might not be the fastest line generally in the braking zone, but it's always defended to Druids. You take a completely diagonal line straight over to the corner. Typically around there, you actually apex a little bit too early. You want to be apex about halfway round the corner and then kind of like holding that fairly tight from that point. Not going in for the right early use of the curb, although maybe this car is slightly different. But you do see a lot of that car, whether it's in British GT or British touring cars, stuff like that. Most of the things that Wasteland here, GT World Challenge, they'll go through the Paddock Hill bend, and then it's basically a diagonal line straight over to the apex or to the racing line at Druids to just take that defence to remove that corner, remove that opportunity. You're absolutely right. Harcourt is sat in third position, and as much as we were saying Tyszkiewicz needs a little bit of assistance if he's to take victory this evening, Harcourt might need the same assistance, only it would be from LeBron to get past Tyszkiewicz, and there is not long left to go. Just 2 laps before we find out who is going to be our champion of the W3GA Sim Racing Pro Race. And at the moment, it is Tyszkiewicz. But that could change in a heartbeat, maybe even into the final corner. Not quite here from LeBron.
If you're Harcourt, do you even try to put pressure on LeBron, or do you just let him work? Do you just let him focus on Tyszkiewicz? Because there's no point putting pressure on LeBron and not overtaking him.
I mean, to be fair, I think I would put pressure on LeBron, because I know that if LeBron drops behind Harcourt, then Harcourt wins, because he'd be in second place, and then the tie break is to the previous race. So if I'm Harcourt, yeah, I am actually putting pressure on. I do want to get through because I want to get in second position. Sure, if LeBron gets through into first, that's great, then I win anyway. But if I can get into second place, then I win again anyway.
Yeah, of course. I mean, it's such a close fight, but Tyszkiewicz is doing such a good job just not giving any opportunities. Brands is one of those tracks where if you defend the inside and you keep getting good exits, then the car behind really has no chance. I mean, you can't really make the outside work in pretty much any of the corners.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, it's a circuit which you can defend at. Easily is not the right way of putting it, but the how you defend around here, it's kind of simple. Like I say, just take the inside line. It's nothing, nothing too dicey. There's some corners are in motorsport where you kind of actually defend by not taking the race line because the outside line's faster. Regardless, around here, no, just defend the inside and they can't pass you. But in doing so, you must not make a mistake. If you make a mistake, then obviously the position will switch. And this circuit is so easy to make mistakes around. It is so narrow, like you were saying earlier in qualifying. It's so brutal with how close the barriers are. That all that grass will pull you straight into it. Go side by side because we've got battles down the order as well. But they'll come around the final corner to begin the final lap. Advantage to Tushkovic. Who is going to come out on top here? Can Harcourt find something special to maybe get past LeBron? Has LeBron maybe even got a challenge in to get past Tushkovic? At the moment, he's further back than we've seen him for a while.
Yeah, there's a huge dive at the back of the field on Adamczyk. Thankfully, they all survived, but you could see LeBron get really ragged on the last lap. Like, I think he just overdid it slightly. He threw caution to the wind. It wasn't working, so he tried even harder, and it backfired on him. But I mean, what did he have to lose? He had to try.
Finally, it seems as though the pressure's also been relieved a little bit from Tushkovic. He can focus on just nailing the final sector, but that final sector is where LeBron has been fairly fast. Look at Harcourt as well joining the fight. Jakob Harcourt trying to make his way through. But from this point on, Kuba, there's not too many spots to actually go for a move for the race lead, is there?
Yeah, there's really, I mean, very small opportunities. We actually saw a dive bomb at the back of the field as we moved away from the double screen, but I mean, we're focusing on the fight up front. But there's really, yeah, I mean, opportunities are really limited now. I think this is how it's gonna finish.
Yeah, I don't see it unless there is a mistake going through here. They go through Dingledale, they go through Sheen Curve, they go through Surtees, they head their way down towards the final corner at Clearways for the last time. It's been a solid performance from Harcourt throughout the evening after taking that victory in the Metapro Supercar race, but it's not quite enough to deny this man. Mateusz Tushkovic came into this race with a lot of weight on his shoulders, expecting to be the favourite. He finished second in the Supercars race, he finishes first here in the SUVs, and he will take the W3GA simracing Pro Race title and the prize money with it. Obviously very provisional, but I don't see that changing at all. LeBron coming across the line in second, having an excellent performance. The podium, the top three, it's the same three drivers, just in a different order to what we saw at Spa. A very different challenge, but it's still these three rising to the fore. Lovely bit of a slide there as well, coming through on LeBron, showing off a little bit. Clearly he's very happy with that second place. I think very wisely, very happy with that second place. It was an excellent performance from him.
Yeah, I mean, what a drive from Tushkovic. He didn't crack under pressure at all. There was so many opportunities where he only had to make a small mistake to give LeBron a chance. LeBron almost created one for himself, barging him out of the way, but still Mateusz didn't crack under pressure and maintained the lead. And yeah, I mean, drove like a champion, and he's the champion. Yeah,
exactly. Just didn't put too many foot wrong. I mean, I would say there was a couple of mistakes in that drive from Tushkovic. It certainly wasn't perfect, but it was, spot on where it needed to be. That's the important thing. To win a race like this, to win a title like this across the two races, you don't need to drive, perfect. There is the room for the odd mistake here and there. It's about where you make those little mistakes, and for Tushkovic, made those mistakes, realistically, for want of a better term, in the right place, right? Didn't get bitten too hard by it, and only had one opportunity open for LeBron. All this sliding, by the way, I definitely need to get this car. This is sick.
Yeah, I said we were watching a drift competition at the back in the middle of the race, and we're watching one after the race as well. And Plona did get Zamaro after all, because Zamaro dropped a lot of places, so I think Plona is gonna end up beating him in the standings, I guess.
Yeah, I think so. Because they were separated by a point, weren't they, earlier on? That was when Zamaro was only a single position behind as Shmuel comes into the pit lane. So yeah, there are definitely a few switches in the point standings coming into coming out of this race, rather.
Yeah, definitely. I mean, it's fair to say Brands was a lot more exciting than I had been expecting, right?
Yeah, no, I agree. I mean, to be fair, both the races this evening have been pretty entertaining. I've always said, in the world of sim racing, I actually quite like a shorter race. I like something around 20, 25 minutes is good for me. 15 minutes is maybe a little bit too short, but I do like a 20, 25 minute race because it's exciting, and the good races you remember, and the bad races, well, at least they're short, aren't they?
Yeah, that's really well put. Yeah, exactly. And yeah, I mean, that was a really, really good race. Both of them were. Not much of a fight for the lead at Spa, but I mean, this one made up for it for sure.
It did get fairly close. Obviously, Mateusz Tushkovic was close to trying to attack, but unfortunately for him, Harcourt just cleared off into the distance early. But of course, Harcourt qualified in the Metapro Supercar to come into the event. That was the one that he had his experience in. That was the one that he was expecting, that we were expecting him to be stronger at. And then obviously moved into the car, which he didn't qualify to come in on because he hadn't seen, hadn't really raced this car coming into it, whereas Tuchkovic had. So they switched around. So in that form, the expected result kind of was that Tuchkovic, the driver that was aiming to take victory, took victory in that one. Lebront came across the line in second, and Jakob Harcourt finishing within a second of the race victory, but unfortunately in third. Borovitz, of course, in fourth position before we get to Scholzek, by the way. Then Adrian Faber, Zbigniew Szara, Smirnov, Frizovic, and then we can see the rest of the runners coming in through there. Decent points being dished out from them, of course. Yes, we know we've spoken about those at the top. We know that Tuchkovic is the champion, etc., etc. But of course, all of these ones further down, they're all fighting for their fair share of prize money as well to make the most of what's been an entertaining evening of racing for them as well.
Yeah, definitely. The field was pretty consistent. I mean, there weren't too many comers and goers. I'm sure Zamar will be a bit disappointed with P15 in race 2, and Kowalski as well. He was P11 after race 1, so him not finishing will be a bit of a disappointment for him as well. But generally, most people showed really, similar level of pace across both races.
Yeah, I agree. There aren't too many that were significantly faster in this or significantly faster in the Supercar. To what we saw earlier, Zamaro being the outlier in that, but to be fair, like you say, coming from the world and doing like F1 and stuff like that, like you're more used to racing around somewhere like Spa than you are around Brands Hatch, let's be honest. Here is a look, of course, at the results. So Tuchkovic taking the top honours as we were expecting, Harcourt and Lebront behind. Those three are exactly where we expected them to be after that race. The three of them on the podium in both races. Scholzek in 4th position, Bobrovitz in 5th, Frizovic, of course, in 6th position with Zbigniew Szara having a decent result in the second race, finishing in 7th. Plona, as you were saying, finishing a little bit further up the order there and pulling out a couple of 10th gap over Zamaro. Those lot all getting their fair share of a prize pool. Obviously, that going out to the top 12. Adrian Faber was outside of the prize money paying positions going into this race. Thankfully, had a decent race for himself to get himself into 10th position with Piotrowski finishing in 11th and Schmiel finishing in 12th in all of that. And those will be the 12 drivers to take home the prize money from the evening's proceedings. And to be fair, well deserved from them. I think even some of them might be shocked they're scoring some prize money for the evening's proceedings.
Yeah, and I'm sure for many of them that will be first prizes that they've ever won in sim racing, if I had to guess. So that will for sure be a really nice. Well, I don't know if you can call it a surprise, but a really nice bonus for them.
Yeah, and I say those journeys kind of start here. For some, I think a lot of sim racers remember the first event where they got some prize money from, and for a lot of these drivers, it could be here, and that could ignite further passions in the world of sim racing. We hope it's ignited your passions sat at home, and maybe you want to get yourself involved in competitions like this, and we'll hope to see you win them in years to come. For us here, though, behind the scenes, I've been Lewis McGlade, and Keith Brzezinski's been alongside me for the racing. That is us sorted. Our champion has been crowned. It is Matej Tuchkovic taking victory in the W3GA Sim Racing Pro Race Grand Final. Thank you so much for joining us, and we hope to see you in the near future. From all of us here, we wish you a very warm goodbye.
Okay.